Hello everyone, Snowflarky Zemos here today with another deck profile. Today it's Thousand Dragon. This is a deck I've built that just for fun for playing around with this classic Dual Monsters Era Fusion monster, Thousand Dragon, the fusion of Baby Dragon and Time Wizard. So just a cool way that I figured I could utilize this card thanks to its non-effect monster status, allowing it to have synergy with tenyi monsters. So in this deck, of course, I can summon Thousand Dragon, and tenyis can make it a lot more powerful than just a 2400 attack monster with no effect. So that's pretty cool to be able to do that. So without further ado, let's get into the cards. Starting off with our monsters, I am playing 3 copies of Baby Dragon. Baby Dragon is one of the 2 fusion materials that is required for the Thousand Dragon. So we are playing 3 of the Baby Dragon, mostly because it is also a normal monster, which means it's a non-effect monster, which gives it plenty of synergy with our tenyi monsters. Baby Dragon, of course, one of the iconic monsters of Joey from the Duel Monsters anime. So it's always cool to be able to just play with an anime favorite like that. In addition, I am playing 2 copies of Time Wizard. Time Wizard is the other material required for Thousand Dragon, and just playing 2 of this because getting Time Wizard in the hand is more of a brick than Baby Dragon, because at least Baby Dragon lets our Tenyi synergies go off. But that doesn't mean Time Wizard is a lost cause. On its own, Time Wizard has a pretty good effect. Once per turn, you can toss a coin and call it. If you call it right, destroy all monsters your opponent controls. If you call it wrong, destroy as many monsters you control as possible. And if you do, take damage equal to half of the total attack of those destroyed monsters that they had on the field. So, it's a 50% chance to be like a Raigeki board wipe, or a 50% chance to be anti-Raigeki. But that's pretty cool. That's wacky. It's fun. When Time Wizard goes off, of course, it's pretty powerful. And other than that, of course, we can be using it as material to make Thousand Dragon. So, might as well run 2 copies of it. Next, I'm running 2 copies of King of the Swamp. King of the Swamp is nice because you can discard this card from your hand to add a polymerization from your deck to your hand. That's pretty nice because Poly allows us to fuse, and we definitely want to fuse monsters in this deck. But King of the Swamp also has the ability to be treated as a substitute for a fusion material for a fusion monster, which means, King of the Swamp can be our Baby Dragon or Time Wizard as long as we have the other one for our fusing of Thousand Dragons. So that's pretty cool. So it either searches Poly or serves as a fusion substitute, and that is a good enough reason for me to be playing it here. Next up, I am playing 3 copies of Rescue Rabbit. So before I was playing around with Unexpected Die as a way to pull Baby Dragon out of the deck. And of course, Unexpected Die is a 1-for-1, so I figured why not use Rescue Rabbit, make it a 1-for-2, because Rescue Rabbit, in 10 you don't need your normal summon a lot, so we can normal summon Rescue Rabbit, and then of course tribute it off to special summon 2 level 4 or lower normal monsters with the same name from our deck. That is of course Baby Dragons, so we can get 2 Baby Dragons on the field, and that can get us material to make Thousand Dragon. 2 Baby Dragons on its own will allow us to make First of the Dragons, which is a pretty sick fusion monster we could be making. And of course, otherwise, Baby Dragons can just be materials for extra deck plays. So do note that they would be destroyed at the end phase if you don't extra deck summon them off, so definitely something that you want to do. And now we are getting into the Tennies. I am playing 2 copies of Tenyi Spirit Ashina. It's a 1600 attack 7-star monster. All the Tennies have this first effect that if you control no effect monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. Pretty cool. And of course, then they all have a secondary effect that they get based on while you control a face-up non-effect monster. So while you control a face-up non-effect monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon a Tenyi monster from your deck, except Tenyi Spirit Ashina. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn, except worm monsters. So pretty good. Digs you further in your deck for other Tenyis, allows you to get more materials out for an extra deck play. Just do note that once you use Ashina, You cannot special summon anything but worm monsters. So if you want to rescue rabbit for baby dragon, or you want to summon your 1000 dragon, make sure you do so before you use Tenyi Spirit Ashina. And that's one of the reasons I'm just running 2 of it over 3 of it. Next, I'm playing 2 copies of Tenyi Spirit Vishuddha. Like Ashina, all the Tenyis have the effect that if you control no effect monsters, you can special summon this card. Vishuddha's other effect is that if you control a non-effect monster, you can banish this card from your hand or graveyard to target a card in the field and return it to the hand. So that's pretty cool. Bounce a card back to the hand, maybe open you up for an OTK, deal with a problematic continuous spell or trap card, just whatever you need. Vishuddha can bounce it back. Next up, I'm playing 2 copies of Tenyi Spirit Adhara. This one is a tuner, which isn't particularly useful in this deck since I'm not playing Synchros, but just note that for you Tenyi enthusiasts out of there. And what Adhara does is you can banish this one from your field or graveyard to add a Tenyi that is banished back to your hand, so that's pretty cool. And that lets us get whichever one that we've already used and would like to use again back to the hand. A good enough reason to play it. Next, we are playing 2 copies of Tenyi Spirit Nahada. This one is a battle trick that when our non-effect monster does battle, we can make the opposing monster lose 1500 attack. That is pretty sweet because Baby Dragon is pretty weak, so if we're stuck with a Baby Dragon on the field, suddenly it has the attack strength of, say, almost 2700 attack. It, of course, makes our 1000 Dragon a bit more resilient in battle, so it's a cool card to have. Next up, I'm playing 3 copies of Tenyi Spirit Shitana. Tenyi Spirit Shitana here is if a non-effect monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card from your hand or graveyard to target one of those destroyed monsters and special summon it, then destroy 1 monster on the field. So that's pretty nice. If you've got 1000 dragons sitting on the field and it gets destroyed, well, you can just summon 1000 dragon right back and pop a card. And that, that recycling is pretty nice to have. Definitely something I'm a big fan of. So we play 3 of that. Next, I'm playing 1 copy of Tenyi Spirit Mopura. This is a Tenyi that when your non-effect monster is targeted by a card effect, you can banish it from your hand or graveyard to negate that card that's targeting it and destroy it. So pretty cool. Gives me targeting perfection. Not the most useful because the field spell protects you from most effects that you're worried about, but good enough to run 1 copy. You can search it when you think you need it, and you can bring it back with Adhara if you think you'll need it multiple times. And last for the monsters, I'm playing a copy of Mermare. Mermare is a pretty good worm monster that works for this deck because getting Mermare on the field is a free way to summon the Link 4 Tenyi monster, which is a very good monster to have. So it cannot be special summoned except by the card effect of a worm type monster. Pretty easy to do. All the Tenyis are worms. Shaman of the Tenyi will get this out no problem. During your main phase, you can reduce this card's level by 1 and special summon a mini mare token, which is a worm type monster that's level 1. And you can use this effect of Mermare up to thrice per turn. So that means we can get 3 tokens. So 3 tokens and Mermare is 4 materials can go right into Tenyi Sassahara, which is the Link 4. So just that, the way this card builds that Tenyi Link board definitely makes me want to play it because even though we're summoning 1000 Dragon in this deck for fun, it's not always guaranteed you can get that, and having a really good Tenyi board just helps make your deck a little more successful. So, Mermare goes in. And that is it for the monsters. Next, looking into our spell cards, I am playing 2 copies of Polymerization. I've played around with only 1 copy of this before since it is searchable, but I figured I'll just play 2 copies. That way I'll see it more often and more oftentimes be summoning 1000 Dragon or First of the Dragons, which is what I want to do with this fun build of the deck anyway. Probably playing less copies of it will make the deck more successful as we have another way to fuse in this deck that is probably better. But, Poly, you just grab it off of King of the Swamp. You can fusion summon 1000 Dragon or First of the Dragons or even the new Time Wizard monster if you want. So all those options are available, so we play Poly to summon them. Next, I'm playing 1 copy of Fusion Deployment. This card is kind of not so good in this deck. It mostly just has one use if I need to pull Time Wizard out of the deck, because I'd rather be pulling Baby Dragon out of the deck other ways. So this one, you reveal a fusion monster in your extra deck and special summon one of the fusion materials whose name is specifically on that card from your deck. The big drawback of this card is that you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except fusion monsters during the turn you activate this, so you can't really do the tenyi link thing on this. So not really something you want to do turn 1 if you want to make some link monsters. But it's good to have just to pull out Time Wizard. I don't know, it's a suspect card. It may be something else, but at 1 copy, I'm still fine with it for the time being. Next up, I'm playing 3 copies of Flawless Perfection of the Tenyi. I love this field spell. I play it in anything I can. So basically all non-effect monsters on the field are unaffected by monster effects. That includes Thousand Dragon. He's a non-effect monster, so that's pretty nice. And then once per turn, if your opponent special summons an effect monster while you control a face-down monster or a non-effect monster, again, Thousand Dragon, you can draw 2 cards. So that's pretty cool. Drawing 2 cards oftentimes can be tenyis that have effects that you can be using from your hand to protect Thousand Dragon or something like that. Have more material to go into more plays on your next turn. Just a pretty sweet card overall. Your opponent will want to get rid of this, and I find myself glad to play 3. I'm also playing a copy of Terraforming, which is just to search the Flawless Perfection of the Tenyi field spell. Next up, I'm playing 3 copies of Vessel for the Dragon Cycle. This is a great card because it is a card that will let you dump Mare in the graveyard and get you tenyis in your hand. So basically what this does is that you send a worm monster from your deck to the grave, and then if you control a face-up non-effect monster, you can add from your deck to your hand a tenyi monster with a different name than the card you sent from the graveyard. So you always want to try to make sure you have either Monka the Tenyi, or even if you just have Baby Dragon, you always want that non-effect before you play this so you can get 2 cards out of it other than 1. And then normally you want to dump Mare, so that Mare will be in the grave for you to pull off of Shaman of the Tenyi, and then you want to add a Tenyi to your hand. Ashina is pretty good if you want to go further, just whatever Tenyi you're looking for. And that gets you access to your Mare, which is great for building the Link 4 extra deck monster. Next, I'm playing 1 copy of Heavenly Dragon Cycle. This card lets me tribute a worm monster to add a worm monster from the deck to my hand with a different name. And of course, if you tribute a non-effect monster, you can special summon it. That effect is not per useful, so not too worried about that. And then again, on another turn, because it's not the turn this card's sent to the graveyard, but other than that turn, you can banish this card from your graveyard to search a tenyi card and put it in your hand. So that's pretty cool. This can grab you the field spell and the trap card even, which is pretty nice, normally what I'm using it for. So just having that is pretty good, and it makes this a pretty cool card. And last for the spells, I'm playing a copy of Instant Fusion. Instant Fusion is used to bring out the new Time Wizard of Tomorrow fusion, which is pretty cool because it's a level 6 or lower fusion, and it's not restricted by this card. So you just pay 1,000 life points, and you can special summon your good old Time Wizard of Tomorrow, because while he says he must be fusion summoned, instant fusion counts as a fusion summon, which is pretty sweet. And Time Wizard of Tomorrow is just a cool monster that can be played in this deck. And so we have the ability to fuse it, and we have the ability to pull it off of instant fusion. So I figured I might as well play it. Pretty good card. And that is it for the spells. Last, we are going into the trap cards. I am playing 2 copies of Necrofusion. Necrofusion allows us to fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials from your graveyard face down, but it cannot attack this turn. So this card I actually find to be a better way to fusion summon our monsters than Polymerization, because we can use Baby Dragon and whatnot for Tenyi Link extra deck plays, and then they're in the graveyard, so on a follow-up turn, we can summon the Thousand Dragon if we need a non-effect on the field for our Flawless Perfection to be live, or we can summon First of the Dragons if we want a wall. So this card is pretty sweet because once the Baby Dragon and Time Wizard and stuff are in the grave, they're not really useful to us anymore, so we might as well banish them face down, turn them into a monster that is pretty useful. A pretty sweet card. Lots of fun things you can do with this card, so works out pretty well here. And last, I am playing 3 copies of Fists of the Unrivaled Tenyi. This is just a solemn for controlling a non-effect monster. It negates a spell or trap or monster effect activation while you control a face-up non-effect monster. Sweet. And of course, if this card you control is destroyed by your opponent's card effect, you can special summon a non-effect monster from your extra deck, which is nice. That could pull out Thousand Dragon, can pull out Berserker the Tenyi, you know, a stronger non-effect monster that we would have access to, which is pretty cool. And so, yeah, that makes it a pretty good card. And that is it for the trap cards. Next here, we are going over the extra deck. I am playing 2 copies of Thousand Dragon. Maybe a bit overkill, because, you know, you may only want to summon this once just to flex that you're playing Thousand Dragon and then play some better cards. But you know, I found a time or two where I Thousand Dragon twice, so I figure I might as well keep 2 in here, especially since it's a target I can pull off of my Destroyed Fist of the Unrivaled Tenyi, and I get to show off both of the arts of Thousand Dragon that exist, which is pretty sweet. You know, it's just a 2400 non-effect monster, so 2400 not that strong, but it is a non-effect monster, so that means you know, Shitana, Mapura, Nahada, all those work with that, and that makes it a little bit of a stronger card. Next, I'm playing 2 copies of Time Wizard of Tomorrow. Time Wizard of Tomorrow is pretty sweet. It's a fusion between Time Wizard and an effect monster, so that is pretty important. It means we actually can't use Baby Dragon to fuse it, but all the Tenyis are effect monsters, so you just need Time Wizard and a Tenyi, and you can fuse into Time Wizard of Tomorrow, and of course we can pull it out with instant fusion. So, Time Wizard of Tomorrow, once per turn, while you control this fusion summoned card, you can toss a coin and call it, destroy as many monsters on the field as possible, and if you do, inflict damage equal to half the total original attack of the destroyed face-up monsters. If you called the coin toss right, your opponent takes the damage. If you called it wrong, you take the damage. So what's nice about this as opposed to the regular Time Wizard is you are guaranteeing that you are destroying, that you are wiping the board, except this time the flip is just to see who takes the burn damage. And it can be your opponent, which is pretty sick. So that's pretty cool. That, you know, I really like effects that can do big burn damage, so it's a lot of fun to do. You know, Time Wizard, even fusion form, regular form, always fun to be pulling off. So, you know, pretty solid option for us to go into. Next, for fusions, I'm playing 1 copy of First of the Dragons. This is a fusion that is made through 2 normal monsters. So if we rescue Rabbit into 2 baby dragons and have polymerization, we can make this card. If we have baby dragons in the graveyard, we can necrofusion in the First of the Dragons. And First of the Dragons is pretty sweet. It's a 2700 attack monster. It is unaffected. By the effects of effect monsters, which is pretty cool, and it cannot be destroyed by battle except by battle with a normal monster. So monster effects can't remove it. Their monster effects can't battle over it, and sometimes First of the Dragons, you know, 2700 is a lot to deal with. But sometimes certain decks and matchups, the way your opponent has built the deck, can't actually deal with this card. So it does give you a pretty, you know, a decent alternate win con. You could easily just sit on First of the Dragons and deck someone out if they don't have a spell or trap removal out or a kaiju, just by being unaffected by monster effects, cannot be destroyed by battle. You know, just things like that, limiting the ways you can out it. First of the Dragons can be pretty solid in that regard. Now we're getting into the Tenyi extra deck monsters. I'm playing 3 Monk of the Tenyi. This is our Link 1 that just requires a non-Link Tenyi monster. This card allows us to get things started, allows us to summon a Tenyi, go into Monk, summon another Tenyi from our hand, which is pretty nice. Worst case scenario, this is a non-effect monster we can sit on to draw cards off of our field spell, which is pretty sweet. So, you know, it's easy to go through 3 Monk in the deck, so we will play 3 Monk Another card I'm playing 3 of is 3 Shaman of the Tenyi. Another card that's pretty easy to go 3 of. It's Link 2 that requires 2 worm monsters. So this card allows us to discard a card to target a worm monster in our graveyard and special summon it. That's how we're going to get Mare out to use Mare's effect, which is pretty cool. Uh, so that's pretty sweet. Um, So after you use that, of course, you can't use effects of monster special summon from the extra deck except Tenyi monsters, so keep that in mind if you were wanting to use Time Wizard of Tomorrow. Pretty cool. And then, of course, when an attack is declared involving a face-up non-effect monster you control, you can target one card your opponent controls and destroy it. So that's pretty cool. That means your Thousand Dragon, when it attacks, you get to destroy a card if you got Shaman of the Tenyi on the field. Pretty sweet. And, of course, if you've gone into some of the big Tenyi links already and they're in the grave, being able to summon a shaman on a future turn allows you to bring it back from the grave, which is pretty nice. Next, we got one copy of Tenyi Spirit Sassahara. So this is the 3000 attack Link 4. This is what you want to make with Mare. It requires 2+ worm monsters, so Mare and its 3 tokens immediately makes this card. So while you control a face-up non-effect monster, monsters your opponent control cannot target effect monsters for attacks. Also, your opponent cannot target effect monsters on the field with card effects. So, give Sassahara protection from battle, from targeting. That's pretty nice. And of course, quick effect, you can target an effect monster your opponent controls, special summon a Tenyi Spirit token, which is a worm type monster, level 4, and its attack becomes whatever the attack of the targeted monster's original attack was. So that's pretty nice. Gets you tokens, which are non-effect monsters. That triggers a lot of your Tenyi effects. That keeps non-effect monsters on board so that you keep Sassahara's protection. Gives you material for next turn follow-up plays. Just a really powerful, great card for us to go into. Next, we have Berserker of the Tenyi, 1 copy. It's a 3000 attack, Link 3, requires 2+ monsters, including a Link monster. So this is basically the big non-effect monster we can summon if we need a non-effect monster to be sitting on that's big. Berserker of the Tenyi is a good option to have, and so for that we play it. Also good to pull off of a Destroyed Fist of the Unrivaled Tenyi. Next, I'm playing 1 copy of Draco Masters of the Tenyi. So this is a Link 3 that requires 2+ monsters, including a Link monster, much like Berserker. So this card cannot be destroyed by battle with effect monsters, pretty cool. And if you control no other effect monsters, you can destroy effect monsters your opponent controls up to the number of non-effect monsters on the field and in your graveyard. So that's pretty cool. Can be a whole board wipe if you have a lot. So this card definitely has its uses. It also has 3 good link arrows, which is pretty nice. So a good option to have at 1 of. And then our last one, I am playing 1 copy of Gaia Saber, the Lightning Shadow. This is just a Link 3 non-effect monster. A little weaker than Berserker of the Tenyi, but doesn't have that requirement to need to be made with a Link monster, which means a baby a rescue rabbit into baby dragons with 1 card can make Gaia Saber, and that's just a big monster that is a non-effect monster giving you all the Tenyi synergies. So pretty sweet to have. And that is it for the extra deck. So that is it for my Baby Dragon 1000 Dragon deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it. Just a really fun way to play a classic dual monsters monster for fun, and Tenyi gives it a little more playability so that even in a casual setting, you can, get some use out of summoning just a 2400, useless non-effect monster. But it's pretty cool to be able to summon it and play it, and, makes it fun. Always cool to have a way to play just some of the favorite childhood dual monsters. So let me know what you think. Have you built a Baby Dragon deck yourself? Love to know what you're doing with Baby Dragon, if you're playing around with it at all. Maybe one day we'll get a full 1000 Dragon archetype, which would be pretty sick. With how much they make Dual Monsters era cards into full archetypes, I wouldn't be surprised to hear it down the line. But until then, this is how I'll be playing it for fun. So, thank you for sticking around. Let me know what other favorite Dual Monsters eras you like. Maybe it'll inspire me to make some other decks with it. And I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.